Hello everyone, and welcome to another marvelous video. Today, we'll be taking a look at a superhero that many of you might not be familiar with. I mean, sure, you guys are probably familiar with the title of Green Lantern, but we're not going to talk about the first two Green Lanterns. Instead, we'll be talking about the third one, Guy Gardner. Recently, it was announced that Finn Wittrock, who starred in American Horror Story, has been cast as Guy Gardner in HBO Max's Green Lantern series, which has been in production since October of 2020. The announcement was undoubtedly welcomed with joy by many DC Comics enthusiasts, but it may have been a little perplexing for the more casual fans of superhero movies or DC TV series who grew up with Jon Stewart, Hal Jordan, or other legendary Emerald Knights as their Green Lantern. So, who is Guy Gardner, and how did he come across the most powerful ring in the universe? Let's find out together, shall we? But before we get into our explanation, we do have just one very small request. If you enjoy our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is just one small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thanks! Now, let's begin. Guy Gardner, Green Lantern Origins Explored. The character of Guy Gardner was created by Gil Kane and John Broome in 1968, who made his debut in Green Lantern Volume 2, issue number 59, where he began his journey with a hypothetical story arc. He didn't appear again until Green Lantern issue 87, a few years later, in which Jon Stewart made his first appearance. So, technically speaking, Guy is the second Green Lantern. Guy Gardner was born in Baltimore, Maryland, to parents Roland and Peggy Gardner. Guy had a difficult upbringing and was frequently abused by his violent father. Despite this, Guy always tried to impress his father. Although Rolly seemed to value Guy's elder brother, Mace, more, Guy's sole getaway was reading comic books, notably the ones from General Glory. As a child, even when he initially became a Green Lantern, he fashioned his hair after the General's young sidekick. Guy tried numerous times as a child to please his father, such as building a transmitter from scratch for a school assignment. Guy grew quite bored of trying to satisfy his father and began getting into problems at school, and then with the authorities as he grew older. He got into difficulties for stealing automobiles and getting into fights, and he was taken to juvenile hall on many occasions as a result. Guy's criminal past caught up with him when he turned 18. One day, he was apprehended while attempting to steal a car, but instead of transporting him to jail, the authorities took him to visit his brother Mace. Mace had become a police officer in their hometown of Baltimore, so he solicited the assistance of the other police officers in educating Guy. Following a light thrashing, Mace handed Guy a large bundle of cash and urged him to start acting correctly. Guy had a eureka moment at this point, and he went out and found himself a job. Guy also received his general education certificate and enrolled in the famous University of Michigan, also known as U of M. At the University of Michigan, he became close friends with John Henry Irons, who would later go on to become the superhero Steel. He graduated from the University of Michigan with a bachelor's degree in education and psychology. He also participated in numerous sports and took many engineering lectures. However, when he returned home to his family, they were worse than before. His brother had been fired from the police department for extorting multiple narcotics traffickers and was shot in a shootout, leaving him paralyzed and in a wheelchair. Ultimately, Mace killed himself in a nearby river, allegedly due to despair. This tragedy fueled the father's drinking to unprecedented heights, eventually killing him. Guy, who had always suffered with his wrath and violence, and as a result of his attitude, he chose to utilize his work to help others who were experiencing the same issues. After that, Guy became a social caseworker and assisted convicts in jail. Hal Jordan was one of those incarcerated detainees because he had an alcohol problem. Guy was probably moved by this because of his own father. One day, due to an incident, Guy lost his passion and attacked one of the convicts during a massive prison riot. He had to drag him away. After that, Guy was forced to change his career path because he felt it just exasperated his innate rage and his hostility. His second position was as a physical education instructor for students with special needs. Guy genuinely enjoyed teaching and his new profession, and his students simply adored him and considered him their favorite instructor. At this point, a critically injured Abin Sur crashes his ship on Earth. Abin Sur was a member of the Green Lantern Corps, an interstellar police organization. In his final act as a Green Lantern, he utilized his power ring to scan the whole planet. The ring was to look for someone honest and fearless. The ring discovered two great candidates, but the finest pick, Guy Gardner, was too far away, so Abin Sur advised the ring go to the closest target, Hal Jordan. Hal ultimately learned about Guy and kept him in mind if he ever needed a successor. Guy saw several changes in the contemporary period, and his popularity skyrocketed until it all came crashing down hard. He was pivotal in the Crisis on Infinite Earths and Legends stories, serving as a counterbalance to Hal. As he was booted out of the Green Lantern Corps, he decided to gain his own power and steal Sinestro's ring. After that was gone, he just began carrying firearms, and his moniker was changed to Warrior. The Blue Beetle then dressed him in Iron Man outfits. They too were quite brief. His origin was later altered, and he was considered an extraterrestrial with latent abilities. None of these later occurrences contributed to the character's fame. He seemed to peak around the same time as the Yellow Ring, and then plummeted. Guy was almost killed and returned without any powers except the Yellow Ring. This was never really addressed in great depth. It was seen more as a retcon to restore the character's old status. Guy didn't return to the character he was until the Green Lantern Rebirth narrative. Guy's past was changed drastically since the relaunch of the DC Universe into the New 52. Guy is now a member of the Justice League International, so join us as we take a look at how Guy managed to get this far. Marvelous story arcs of Guy Gardner meeting Hal Jordan. Guy went on a field trip with his students to California one day. A violent earthquake struck a bridge the class was passing on a school bus while on the field trip. Except for Guy and a small girl, everyone on the school bus managed to escape from the emergency exit at the back of the vehicle before it careened over the edge of the bridge and plunged over. Guy attempted to save the little girl when the bus broke down, but was unsuccessful. Fortunately, Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, rescues the both of them just in time. He recognized Gardner as the guy who had worked with him in jail, and whom Abin Sur first chosen to get the power ring. The two were hauled away to firm ground, but Guy's legs have been damaged in the collision. Guy was bedridden for approximately a year and had to walk with a cane or crutches. Guy discovers that he is still tortured with remorse about the near death of his entire class after he recovered enough to walk on his own. Guy took a sabbatical from teaching since he was depressed, and he felt he couldn't perform his job any longer. Guy began to tour the nation, seeing places he had always wanted to see. While traveling, Guy met Carrie Limbo at a state carnival. She is a fortune teller, and when reading Guy's destiny, she tells him that he will inherit a role in a great tradition involving the color green. Guy and Carrie quickly fell in love, and she accompanies Guy on his journey across the nation. They also get engaged after Guy proposes to Carrie. Things were finally looking up for Guy. Catapulted into the Phantom Zone. Guy was unaware of the fact that Hal Jordan was having trouble charging his ring. Hal chose to travel to the planet Oa to explore the situation, assuming it was caused by the central power battery. He departs Earth, but not before confronting Guy about his status as a Green Lantern and the role he had played. Guy initially has difficulty accepting the duty as the Green Lantern, but he eventually embraces it. Guy gives him a new power ring, as well as his old lantern. Hal didn't realize that the problem was within his old lantern, and as a result, the battery exploded when Guy attempted to charge his ring for the first time and winds up with a concussion. Everyone thought Guy was killed in the explosion, but he was actually blasted into the Phantom Zone. Within the zone, he also had to learn to care for himself while suffering from a concussion without medical assistance. The strange thing about the zone was that he could stare into Earth. From his vantage point, he could see Carrie lamenting his supposed death and Hal comforting her. Worse, he witnesses Carrie and Hal gradually falling in love, and the longer Guy watches, the more his prior fury and anger overwhelms him. Guy meets a monster named Sapple while he's in the zone. It was frantic to get out of the zone and dominate the outer world. It may just as well have done so, but Guy overcomes Sapple with his remaining power. Guy's psychological and physical harm is exasperated by the conflict. Guy continued to observe Hal and Carrie's existence together, worsening his situation. Guy attempts to use Carrie's psychic skills as a last-ditch effort to exit the zone. Guy eventually managed to get inside Carrie's head on the day she was to marry Hal. Carrie went into a trance and sketched a picture of what she saw from the other realm on the ground. Hal promptly enlisted Superman's assistance, but they were both drawn into the Phantom Zone during their rescue effort. When Hal and Superman entered the zone, they were soon ambushed by an enraged Guy who believed Hal had stolen Carrie from him. He also suspected Hal of deliberately attempting to murder him with his malfunctioning battery. Guy was so upset that Superman and Hal had to flee the zone. After Hal and Superman left, Guy was drawn into the antimatter dimension, called Quart by the ex-Green Lantern Sinestro. Guy was manipulated by Sinestro, who fed his wrath, particularly towards Hal Jordan. Without giving up, Superman and Hal returned and vanquished Sinestro, and restored Guy back to his home. Eventually, Guy's injuries caught up with him, and he fell into a coma. Carrie broke up with Hal while Guy was in the hospital, and John Stewart became the next Green Lantern from Earth. Hal and John battled as Green Lanterns for an extended period of time while Guy was recovering from his coma. becoming Green Lantern. As Guy Gardner was still in a coma, he could still sense his connection to the Green Lantern Corps. He could picture the Green Lantern's clashes with Krona and Necron in his mind's eye. After these fights, Hal became tired of the perilous and hazardous life of a member of the Corps, and he resigned. John Stewart took over Sector 2814 after Hal stepped down. Following this, the creature known as the Anti-Monitor, which was made out of antimatter energy, devoured entire universes. Unbeknownst to anybody at the time, the fate of the whole multiverse was at risk, and everyone needed to pitch in. The Guardians of the Universe were conflicted about what to do. When discovering this dreadful incident, 6 Guardians were compelled to breach their promise not to meddle and take action. They built their own power battery and assembled a small Green Lantern strike squad. As we mentioned before, Guy Gardner was the first Green Lantern selected. However, Guy had only been a Green Lantern briefly, yet he displayed a degree of willpower that had never been seen before. He was awakened from his coma by the Guardians as a result. During the Crisis of Infinite Earth storyline, Guy awakens from his coma and first goes to Abin Sur's crash site. Hal Jordan greets him when he arrives, who is in the cemetery for his regular visit. One of the Guardians approached them before they could say anything. With the whole universe on the verge of disaster, the Guardians decided that Guy was the only Green Lantern who could lead their assault against the Anti-Monitor. After that, Guy had promptly transferred to Oa and given his own powering by the Guardian. Guy and Hal met 5 other Guardians at the main citadel. Since the antimatter had annihilated the energy within the original central battery, the Guardians informed Guy that his ring and battery will be powered by their own personal life force. Guy was given a new costume that resembled the now defunct Fists of the Guardians bots. Guy was tasked with leading the attack group, which would gather on the moon of Quad, the home of the Anti-Monitor. After Guy and the Guardians ended their discussion, a devastating wave of antimatter surged across Oa. It resulted in the deaths of 5 of the 6 Guardians. Gardner was given the approval by the last Guardian and sent forth to recruit his strike army. Hal had actually grabbed a ride when Guy was whisked to Oa, unbeknownst to anybody. When Guy had left, Hal addressed the Guardian and offered his services as a seasoned Green Lantern. With one condition, the Guardian accepts and provides him his own power ring. The one condition is that he must always follow Guy. Hal reluctantly accepts and sets out to locate Guy. Soon, Guy resurrects the Stark, an old foe of Hal's, and convinces him to help out with his objective. Guy also enlists the help of Goldface, Sonar, Blindside, Throttle, and Hector Hammond. However, the Green Lanterns Kat Matui and John Stewart interrupted the team's formation. They intended to return most of the squad to prison and arrest Guy, but before they can, Hal drops in and reveals to the 2 Lanterns that Guy has been selected to stop the Anti-Monitor and that no one can stop him. The group then departs towards Quard and their goal. Sinestro approaches John Stewart and Kat Matui when they become frustrated. Sinestro informs them that if Guy's assault on the moon of Quard is successful, the Anti-Monitor will gain strength. John rushes away to stop the squad. Guy and his strike group confronted numerous foes, defending Quard as John rushed in. Things heated up, and Hal argued with Guy. Guy dismisses Hal from the squad as a result of this. Hal's refusal to employ fatal force was the final straw. Guy finds himself stranded in the antimatter realm. As Guy's troops neared Quard to complete their ultimate goal, John intervened and assaulted Guy. Guy refused to listen when John warned him of the folly of his objective. Hal also attempted to persuade Guy not to do it. John believed the only way to stop Guy and his men was to use force. Guy and John then engaged in a lengthy dispute. In the end, John triumphed and imprisoned Gardner. The Anti-Monitor is finally thwarted by numerous heroes from the multiverse after he sends Guy's crew back to Earth. Joining the Justice League International. The surviving Guardians were released from their antimatter prison after the crisis was over. Guy faced the consequences for his conduct, as he was told that if he wanted to be a Green Lantern, he needed to train in their homeworld of Matlas and assist in repairing other planets that had been devastated by the catastrophe. Guy reluctantly agreed to their terms. Guy becomes a bitter and more aggressive Guy as a result of all that's transpired, and his ego skyrocketed. Guy eventually becomes a committed member of the Corps, and gets a reputation as a highly effective and strong Green Lantern. During this time, Hal becomes the official Green Lantern of Earth once more, and he is assigned with a universe-wide recruitment mission for the Corps, and Guy is left as Sector 2814's Green Lantern Ambassador. The world understood it needed a new Justice League soon after the events of the Legends conflict. This new league would not be limited to Americans, but would safeguard the entire planet. Maxwell Lord starts enrolling recruits for his own new league in this setting. The newcomers that Max welcomes are Batman, Martian Manhunter, Captain Marvel, Black Canary, Blue Beetle, Dr. Fate, and Guy. This signified the beginning of the Justice League International, and a more fun-loving and happier era of the DC Universe. Guy saw himself as the team's leader, but was not very well liked. Most members preferred it to be Batman, Martian Manhunter, or even Max. Maxwell even approached Hal and offered him a spot on the squad, but Hal refused to join if Guy was still on it. Guy's presence, according to Hal, is cancer to the group's integrity. Guy eventually challenged Batman's leadership qualities at one point during the JLI's tenure. When the dispute heated up, Gardner removed his power ring, claiming that all he needed to defeat Batman was his bare fists. Guy was quickly knocked unconscious by a single punch. He awoke angry and began looking for his ring, which had been thrown behind a computer console. He gets startled by a rat while behind the console and hits his head, putting him out once again. Guy acquires a dual personality upon waking up this time. When Guy was knocked in the head, this different personality would emerge. As this happened, Guy transformed into the polar opposite of his usual arrogant, sexist, and ego-ridden character, developing a humble, modest, kind, pacifist side. Soon, the League had to deal with the tremendous challenges posed by the Dreamslayer and Despero. Maxwell Lord was possessed by Dreamslayer, who exploited him to influence the League. He was finally defeated by the Silver Sorceress. After killing numerous people, Despero escaped from Lord Magna's mothership and attacked Earth. This was a significant struggle for the League, and stopping Despero's attack required a massive united force. Yet, these events and subsequent damage resulted in the dissolution of the Justice League International. Guy returned to become Sector 2814's alternative Green Lantern after leaving the League. After Guy provoked Hal too often, Hal shattered Gardner's power ring. Hal was penalized for his conduct, while Guy was barred from obtaining another power ring due to his reckless clashes with the other Lanterns. This enraged Guy, and he believed that he needed power and that he was born with it. Guy devised a scheme to obtain another yellow Cordian ring from former Green Lantern Sinestro. The ring was found within the crypt built by the Guardians of the Universe. Guy contacted the alien bounty hunter Lobo using his Justice League connections. Guy and Lobo were frequently at odds due to their similar and harsh dispositions. Nonetheless, Lobo agreed to assist Guy. Guy realized precisely what he came for when the two ultimately located the crypt. To obtain the ring, he had to confront Sinestro's ghost. When Guy won and put on the ring, he realized it was devoid of power. Another issue was that the ring's language was Karagarian, Sinestro's native language. Thus, he couldn't figure out how to change it. Lobo and Guy were ambushed by a Green Lantern Corps member on their journey back to Earth. Guy felt he was doomed, but the more the Green Lantern fought him, the stronger his new ring became. Guy started fighting back, and the ring became even more forceful. Guy won, but from then on, the only way he learned how to change his ring was to fight another Green Lantern. Guy experienced a lot of adventures while using this yellow ring. Becoming the Warrior. Guy's life, and the lives of the Green Lanterns everywhere, took another dramatic turn when Hal went insane. Hal's hometown of Coast City had been devastated, and Hal sought to resurrect everyone using his ring. Hal was forbidden from doing so by the Guardians. In his wrath, Hal attacked the Corps itself. Hal charged straight at Oa, murdering every Green Lantern in his way. As time passed, he accumulated an increased number of rings. As he arrived on Oa, he absorbed all the remaining Lanterns' energy and murdered them. Desperate, the Guardians freed Sinestro from his confinement within the central power battery. Guy's loyal old companion Kilowog was burnt to ashes when Hal snapped his neck. The Guardians then delegated all of their authority to one of their own, Ganthet. Ganthet traveled to Earth with all his might. Hal then entered the battery and emerged imbued with all of the battery's remaining power. He changed his name to Parallax, and in his own twisted manner, vowed not to let anyone stand in his way of setting things right. Ganthet, now on Earth, launched a desperate quest for a fitting successor to the last Green Lantern. He initially approached Guy Gardner, but Guy rejected. Before Parallax arrived on Earth, the closest person he could discover to be worthy of Green Lantern was artist Kyle Rayner. Kyle reluctantly agreed and was handed a required power ring by Ganthet, who left the Oa afterwards. In the meantime, Guy leads a crew of his old colleagues to stop Hal's transition to Parallax on Oa. After learning about it, Parallax swiftly defeated everyone except Guy, who fought valiantly for as long as he could while draining all of Parallax's willpower. However, Parallax eventually smashes Guy's yellow ring, as well as one of Guy's eyes, and abandons him for dead. Thankfully, Ganthet was able to securely transport Guy back to Earth. The Warriors of Valdar. Guy's valiant efforts were not in vain, as Parallax was finally defeated by numerous other heroes. But Guy lost his powers and tried everything he could to remain a superhero. He attempted to combat crime without any powers and be a superhero using a couple of robotic outfits constructed for him by the Blue Beetle. Guy ultimately discovered new abilities deep within the Amazon's Naba rainforest. While investigating an ancient temple, Guy discovered a chalice filled with a peculiar liquid. Guy felt driven to sip from the chalice. After being pulled to it. Guy then suffered a drastic metamorphosis and was flooded with information spanning hundreds of years. He sees visions of the Vuldarians, a fading species of humanoids that arrived on Earth from the planet called Vuldar. They were a proud warrior species with incredible shape-shifting skills. They came to Earth to preserve their race since their numbers were diminishing. The Vuldarians learned their DNA was human compatible, so they started mating with indigenous tribe members. Sadly, their distinct DNA would take years to fully fuse with humans. The last Vuldarian colony died, but their DNA remained in the human pool for a while longer until the merger was effective hundreds of years later, and Guy was this ancestor. Guy was astounded to discover all of this, and he suddenly recognized that the liquids from the chalice had awakened his hidden Vuldarian powers. His eye returned, and he could instantly and cruelly transform his body into a plethora of weaponry. When he changed, he grew 7 feet tall and was covered with ceremonial Vuldarian tattoos. Guy could only change back for some time if he was given enough time to focus. It also took him a while to figure out how to harness his newfound abilities to forge more potent weapons. After a while, he achieved complete control of his newfound powers and even the ability to cure wounds. Guy resumed his heroic activities soon after. He battled enemies such as the cruel Dementor and his brother Militia. Guy even created Warriors, a pub that acted as his personal headquarters, a hangout for superheroes, and even a museum. Guy spent a lot of time fighting as the valiant warrior. He even started to become a lot calmer in nature. Heroes he had once detested became his buddies. He developed a more boring attitude and had somewhat mushy characteristics. His personality had entirely altered. The person from the past didn't seem to have ever existed. Rejoining the Green Lantern Corps. Guy's Vuldarian DNA was overwritten by his human DNA during the 2005 miniseries Green Lantern Rebirth, when Parallax possessed Gardner and several other Green Lanterns as well. Gardner's ring returned to him when Hal Jordan's ring broke into pieces. The combined effort of all 5 current Green Lanterns, including Gardner, eventually defeated Parallax. Gardner is then chosen as one of the high-ranking officers of the new Green Lantern Corps by the Guardians. Gardner was one of the 3 primary teachers of the Corps in the 2005 miniseries Green Lantern Corps Recharge, along with Kilowog and Kyle Rayner, assigned by the Guardians. The 3 were put in charge of forming a new Corps, whose 7,200 members the Guardians wanted to appoint. Gardner was not all grateful for this new position. When he complained to the Guardians, they told him that he could be offered a promotion if he successfully mentored new recruits. Gardner was crucial to stopping the Spider Guild's assault on Oa. Gardner and Kyle Rayner undertook a rescue operation in clear violation of Oan protocol after learning that student Saranic Natu had vanished into the restricted Vega solar system, which the Guardians' contract with the Scions of Vega bans Green Lanterns from accessing. While there, the Lanterns find the nest of the Spider Guild and conclude that the Oan sun will be its next victim. As Gardner returned just as the attack started, he collected the terrified new Green Lanterns and rallied them with a speech that even his lifelong enemy Hal Jordan was impressed by. After that, Gardner was promoted to Lantern number 1 of the Green Lantern Honor Guard, a position of power over other Lanterns, as a result of his success in fending off the onslaught. Defending Oa against Superboy Prime. During the Infinite Crisis storyline, Guy leads the Corps in defense of Oa against Superboy Prime in his new capacity as Lantern number 1. He summoned an energy wall to halt the raging teen and issued a Code 54, allowing the use of lethal force. Guy also oversaw Superboy Prime's eventual arrest and incarceration with the assistance of 2 Supermans, sealing him in a red Sun Eater given by Donna Troy and establishing a continual watch of 50 lanterns to keep him confined. Guy spends an entire year following Infinite Crisis performing missions for the Guardians without any time off. 1 year later, when he is finally permitted some time off, his leisure is cut short by an attack by a vengeful Bullfunga the Relentless. Guy soon joined Hal Jordan on an unofficial trip to the Manhunter homeworld of Biot. Many long-lost and thought-dead Lanterns were rescued from Cyborg Superman's incarceration thanks to Hal and Guy's efforts, though the latter was punished by the Guardians upon his return to the Corps. Battling against Sinestro Corps. Cyborg Superman and Superboy Prime escaped incarceration in the Sinestro Corps War narrative when the Sinestro Corps attacked Oa, murdering the Prime duty guards. Guy, together with his fellow Green Lanterns, John Stewart and Hal Jordan, is captured and dragged to Quart by Parallax during a fight. Lyssa Drac then imprisons Guy and Stewart and compels them to relive traumas in their lives. Hal defeats Lyssa and rescues Guy and John from their nightmares. Parallax almost breaks Gardner's neck in the battle that ensues after their escape. As they return to their reality, they defend Earth against the whole Sinestro Corps. After assisting in releasing Kyle from Parallax's clutches, Parallax is disassembled into 4 parts and deposited in the power batteries of Guy, John, Hal, and Kyle by former Guardians Sayid and Ganthet. Unfortunately, Guy gets afflicted with Despotellus, a fatal extraterrestrial virus created by the Sinestro Corps, but is treated by the Green Lantern Corps' unique smallpox vaccine, Liesel Pon. Black Lanterns. Guy and Kyle Rayner protest the Guardians' decision to execute all Sinestro Corps members and other detainees in the 2009 Blackest Night storyline. They are sent to Earth after failing to persuade the Alpha Lanterns and the Guardians themselves to abandon the lousy road they are on. They subsequently attempt to return to Oa, but fail to repel an invasion by a cluster of black rings to Oa's Lantern Tomb, where fallen Lantern corpses are resurrected as Black Lanterns. Guy is compelled to squash the insectoid Buzzed in the subsequent struggle, but is then stabbed through the leg by Kihan. After that, Guy bursts into a frenzy after Kyle is murdered in the explosion of Chassalon's power battery and is changed into a Red Lantern. Guy pursues vengeance on the Black Lanterns, now equipped with his red and green power rings, and can quickly eliminate them on the spot with his paired weapons. After Kyle's restoration at the efforts of Star Sapphire Miri Rayam, Guy turned his homicidal wrath on his former friends before Mogo purged the Red Lantern fury from him, despite being advised that only a Blue Lantern can truly heal him. He later joins the war on Earth against Necron. Soon, Guy leads the fight to destroy the Black Lanterns in preparation for the last confrontation, in which good triumphed over evil. Red Lantern Rage. Following the events of the Blackest Night, Guy appeared in the Peter Tomasi penned monthly series Emerald Warriors in 2010. In this storyline, Guy persuades the Guardians of the Universe to let him explore uncharted territory in quest of undiscovered foes to avert catastrophes like those recently endangering the cosmos. Guy, however, established a covert deal with Atrocitus and Ganthet, two Guardians, before approaching them. In reality, Guy still exhibited ties to the Red Lantern Corps, as seen early on in this tale. Guy tries to visit his homeworld of Odom to rid himself of the Red Lantern taint. He was still trying several times to control his wrath and stop his mouth from spewing Red Lantern blood. On the other hand, Blee steps in and informs Guy that he must employ the Red Lantern anger to help him in his struggle. Guy also discovers on Odom that the Green Lantern rings were being depleted of their energies for unexplained causes. After reaching the unknown regions, Guy is overtaken by the Red Lantern Rage and throws up a Red Lantern construction of Atrocitus, who says that the prophecy is now being fulfilled. The prophecy also clearly motivated the previously undisclosed deal between Atrocitus, Ganthet, and Guy. The projection depicted creatures assaulting lanterns and other people, Sodom Yat and his army advancing, Guy and Hal Jordan battling fiercely, and Green Lanterns fighting other Green Lanterns. Guy and the other Earth Lanterns are forced to utilize the rings of other corps, because Parallax's influence was reinstated to the central power battery, as seen in the War of the Green Lanterns narrative. Guy chose the red power ring based on his experience with the Red Lanterns. Guy and his allies free Parallax from the central power battery during the conflict with the Green Lantern Corps. Guy used the Star Sapphire ring in tandem with the Red Lantern ring, drawing on his adoration of the Corps, as well as his anger and hatred to power both rings in one go. The two emotional ends of the spectrum proved sufficient to free Parallax from the battery. Kyle Rayner's blue ring then cleansed Guy of the Red Lantern energy before each reclaimed their customary ring. Following Flashpoint. A revived Green Lantern Corps series that began in 2011 as a part of DC's The New 52 reboot featured Gardner, John Stewart, and the prestigious Green Lantern strike team. Due to Hal's expulsion following the events of the War of the Green Lantern, Kyle's expulsion as a result of his collaboration with the other ring wielders, and John's trial for the murder of another Green Lantern, Guy initially looked to be the only Earth Green Lantern that the Guardians still can rely on. In reality, the Guardians wanted to bring down all 4 Earth Lanterns by ruining Guy's career. As a result, Guy is given the responsibility of protecting a group of diplomats traveling to the planet for an important meeting, when the Guardians elevate him to the position of Sentinel Lantern and entrust him with this mission. Then they free Guy's longtime foe, Zar, from the Science Cells to attack the diplomats, using the appearance that he is after Guy's family on Earth. They prophesied that while Zar assaults the diplomats, Guy will forego his duties and return to Earth. Guy was the only member of his squad who managed to escape when the Third Army captured the rest of them, thwarting their plans to recruit him. The Guardians then demanded that Guy leave the Corps in order to atone for the harm that Zar had caused by killing the ambassadors. After a depressing phone call with his family, in which his father criticized superheroes for being excessively dependent on their superpowers, Guy made an effort to invest the night fending off criminals using his natural abilities. He interferes with the police sting operation, which results in his sister arresting him. He is assaulted by the Third Army while incarcerated, but Green Lanterns Bidge and Simon Baz save him, and transport the bystanders to safety before destroying the Third Army and fleeing to the Moon's Sea of Tranquility. Guy was incensed to learn that the Guardians were opposing him and the Corps. He is sent to the planet Oa by Bidge and Simon. Guy reclaims his ring over there, where he joins Kilowog and the other Reserve Corps troops in their uprising against the devious Guardians. When Sinestro destroys the wicked First Lantern and the emotionless Guardians, Guy and Kilowog locate and liberate Salak, who is imprisoned by the Guardians. Guy is enraged when he finds out that the Guardians have published Salak's surveillance film of Zar. Salak assists him in locating Zar and finds that he is on Earth and planning to destroy Guy's family. Guy manages to beat the clock with St. Walker's willing aid and arrives in time to blast Zar to death, reuniting with his family. Following this incident, Guy is cast in the Red Lantern series, where he is sent undercover by Hal Jordan to join the Red Lanterns. It is revealed that his choice to join the Red Lanterns was partly influenced by his sense that he never really fit in with the Green Lanterns. He beats Atrocitus and becomes the leader of the gang. Gardner manages to hold his wrath in control as a Red Lantern, effectively guiding most of the Red Lanterns. Atrocitus, on the other hand, leads a splinter faction and permits fresh Red Rings to pursue deadly justice-based rampages. After collaborating with the Green Lanterns to eliminate the cosmic terrorist Relic, Hal agrees to give the Red Lanterns a sector to watch over. Unknowingly, this sector becomes Sector 2814, where Earth lives, gaining the Red Lantern Corps custody of Earth. He then delegated command of the Corps to Supergirl, Rachnor, and Bleez, who would lead the next generation of Red Lanterns into the future. Guy Gardner's appearances in Batman the Brave and the Bold. Guy Gardner had his first proper spoken television appearance in the 2000 hit animated TV series Batman the Brave and the Bold, where he was voiced by James Arnold Taylor. In the preview of his first episode, Day of the Night, Batman and Guy accompany an extraterrestrial criminal to the Oan Sciencelis. Guy encounters Kilowog, who is carrying a criminal from the planet Quell. Guy ignored him as a threat and spilled his coffee on him. Batman then screamed that when Quellians are exposed to wetness, they grow enormous and strong. So, obviously, the Quellian grows in strength and strikes Guy, causing the conflict to spill into the mess hall. Guy, along with the other Green Lanterns, fight the criminal, distracting it long enough for Batman to connect a dehydration device to the alien's head that drains all of the moisture it ingested, diminishing the alien's size and power. The other Lanterns then order Guy to clean up the wreckage. Next, we see more of Guy, as he is a central character in the episode, The Eyes of Despero. We see Guy Gardner, Nort, and Sinestro as the only remaining Green Lanterns on Oa, when Hal Jordan appears to kill himself, the Guardians, and the other Lanterns to protect them from succumbing to Despero's mental enslavement. Batman is sent to Oa by Hal's ring, where he uses yellow energy bars to release the other Lanterns from a science cell. Sinestro says that Guy was imprisoned after having a tantrum because the mess hall chef had prepared his meal improperly, and the Nort became trapped in the same cell while attempting to bring Guy food. To aid Batman in locating and combating Despero, Guy, Nort, and Sinestro later used their rings to provide him with a solid energy battle costume. Batman gave Guy the order to keep Mogo occupied while Sinestro created a barrier around Earth, and Despero grabbed possession of the living planet Green Lantern known as Mogo. In order to free Mogo from Despero's control, Batman and Nort both engaged Despero in combat. Following Batman's instructions, Guy engaged Sinestro in combat as he attempted to destroy Mogo to keep its power away from Despero. As Nort performed his task, Mogo was set free and assisted Batman in taking down Despero. In a subsequent episode titled Death Race to Oblivion, Guy Gardner appears as a competitor in Mogul's race to determine the fate of Earth. While Guy Gardner tried to gain the lead, Steppenwolf started shooting. Steppenwolf fired a sonic cannon despite Guy building a power ramp and leaping in front of the War Machine. The Joker fired a Jack-in-the-Box, upsetting Guy's willpower and forcing him to lose his car and power ring. Guy nearly escapes being run down by Batman and the Joker before being transported away. When Batman and Steppenwolf contended for the final spot, Green Arrow prepared to disrupt the cell's force field wall. He cautioned that he would only have enough time to shoot one arrow, so Guy functioned as an arrow, while Plastic Man transformed into a massive bow. Guy retrieves his power ring when Green Arrow blasts him through the temporary gap and towards their armament. He frees the other heroes and gives Green Lantern his weapons before leading them to the power core. When Batman wins the race, Guy brings everyone to safety. In the episode Revenge of the Reach, he makes one final appearance when he assists the other Green Lanterns, Batman and the Blue Beetle, in defending Oa from the Reach. What makes Guy Gardner so powerful? Guy Gardner possesses all of the powers of a normal human being before the acquisition of any power rings or the activation of his latent Vuldarian abilities. He is highly clever and was a top college football player until damaging his knee. Guy Gardner has been taught how to utilize a Green Lantern power ring that is only restricted to the user's willpower. Later, he obtained Sinestro's Cordian power ring, which is subsequently revealed to be based on the bearer's control of fear. This prototype yellow ring is powered by collecting plasma radiation emitted by a Green Lantern ring. While wearing this ring, Guy appears more vulnerable than a standard Green Lantern. He employs both for basic lantern skills such as constructions, flying, and energy projection. In the aftermath of Kyle Rayner's apparent death, Guy's wrath causes a Crimson power ring to attach onto him, bestowing upon him the ability to unleash napalm-like flames that would burn even in space. Unlike other Red Lanterns, Guy retains his intellect, and like Hal Jordan when enslaved by a red ring, Guy can mold the red flames into concrete constructions. Guy's green ring, unlike Hal's, stays active, enabling him to merge the two rings. Guy also represents the first male character to be shown wearing a love-powered Star Sapphire ring along with the Red Lantern ring. Guy's Vuldarian skills include limited shapeshifting, allowing him to produce weapons out of his body, such as swords, shields, energy cannons, armor, and any equipment he has complete control over. He possesses tremendous strength, stamina, and durability around Superman's levels. He also has the ability to fly, the capacity to survive in outer space without assistance, fast healing, and access to the memories of deceased Vuldarians. Gardner, who was trained by Vuldarian Cardone, becomes very competent in using his powers and engages in rigorous martial arts practices. After Parallax's return, he experiences a metahuman energy discharge, and his Vuldarian skills declined. Guy Gardner's marvelous appearances in other media. Guy Gardner's first foray into television came in 1997 with The Justice League of America, an unsuccessful TV movie about the Justice League. This version of the Justice League comprised of Flash, Atom, Fire, Ice, Martian Manhunter, and of course, Guy Gardner as the Green Lantern. They all joined together to fight a villain called the Weatherman. Matthew Settle played Guy Gardner in this film. Guy Gardner also appears in an episode of Looney Tunes Duck Dodgers as a Green Lantern who gets abducted by one of Sinestro's robots, along with several other Green Lanterns. Guy had yet another non-speaking surprise appearance in Young Justice, a 6-season animated television series that premiered in 2010. Guy appeared in the episode titled Revelation, where he defended a school bus from plant beings in Star City. Guy was later proposed for membership in the Justice League by Barry Allen, but this was promptly rejected by Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. Guy makes another appearance, this time in Green Lantern the Animated Series, released in 2012. He makes his debut appearance in the Season 1 episode The New Guy. He is introduced as the next Green Lantern of Sector 2814, taking over for Hal Jordan, who is fighting the Red Lantern Corps off Earth. It is observed that this version of Guy is more of a star superhero, even signing autographs for a female television reporter. He later joins forces with Hal to go up against the freshly awakened Manhunters. In this series, Diedrich Bader provided the voice for Guy. Marvelous verdict. Guy is considered to be one of the most talked about Earth Green Lanterns, owing to his outspoken personality. When the character was recreated by Joe Staton and Steve Englehart, he became a source of contention, not just with other superheroes, but even inside the Green Lantern Corps itself. Regardless of how much of a jerk this character can be, he is as dedicated to the Corps as anybody, eventually becoming a Green Lantern Honor Guard member. We do understand if you wanted to hear more about Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart, or hey, even Kyle Rayner's casting in the upcoming Green Lantern TV show, before knowing about Guy Gardner, but you at least gotta recognize that this individual has an unusual history, which will certainly keep things interesting when the HBO Max original series, Green Lantern, premieres. What are your thoughts about Guy Gardner? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos. Until next time, have a good one and be safe.